Our show. Go out and be a blessing. Us, God bless you. We'll holler at you tomorrow if the Lord say the same. If he does not, and it's your last day on earth, we hope that when you see the Master, he says, servant, well done. Because the life you've lived, work you've done, people you've asked for forgiveness when you trespassed against them. Again, this is Zeta Week on Charlotte Underwood Radio. So on behalf of our 456 affiliates of Charlotte Underwood Radio, the phone lines will always be open to you. 1-855-SHERL1. Be blessed. Be easy.
KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success.
Broadcasting from the First National Bank Tower. This is KLEK-LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council.
Jonesboro's community radio station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Good Wednesday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. Clouds and showers and a few thunderstorms today and early tonight. The high 65 to 70 and the low temperature upper 30s and low 40s. This weather front will be out of here for Thursday. It'll be partly sunny in the mid 40s, definitely cooler. Another batch of showers coming in late Thursday night and Friday, mostly cloudy skies Friday in the mid 50s. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. US Senator Elizabeth Warren says the female candidates vying to take on President Trump have a better chance of beating him than the men. The Mail on Sunday newspaper's defense against a case brought by the Duchess of Sussex says there's a huge public interest in the royal family's personal relationships. China says its pledge to ramp up imports from the US won't affect volumes from other countries, and Thailand's Prime Minister is directing security officials to prevent political gatherings.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM. Good morning to you on your Wednesday. It's January 15th, 2020. This is Community Conversations. Kiddo Wonder is in the studio with you. I am joined by Kabila Jones, host of Community Conversations, and joining us today is our first guest for today. We actually have a two-part show today. Joining us in this hour is attorney Skip Mooney Jr., running for Circuit Judge Division 2, Division 5 at large. And then joining us at the 10 o'clock hour will be members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, as they will celebrate their Founders Day, and we definitely want to wish all of them a happy Founders Day. Now, again, before we get into our interview with Mr. Mooney, I do have to give the disclaimer. KLEK and the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, we do not endorse nor support nor oppose any candidate for office, nor was any compensation provided for this interview. This interview is provided for informational purposes only. However, we do encourage you to vote. Early voting starts February 17th, and Election Day is March 3rd.
All right, so good morning to you, Mr. Skip. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
All right, so as we do with all of our guests.
Skip, pull that mic right there closer to you.
How's that? Is that better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just make sure you speak directly into it.
Okay.
So as we do with all of our guests, we would like for you to give us an introduction of yourself and tell us about your legal background.
Okay, I'll be happy to. My name's Skip Mooney Jr. I grew up in Jonesboro, Arkansas. I went to Jonesboro High School, graduated from Arkansas State University, and then I was fortunate enough to get into the University of Law School in Fayetteville.
Okay.
Once I graduated from there, I came back to work and practice law with my father and a guy named Joe Boone, and the law firm was called Mooney and Boone at that time.
Okay.
I've been practicing law and representing families and their businesses for over 36 years.
Wow.
So I'm truly a trial lawyer. I mean, I have tried thousands of cases. I have tried cases in state court, federal court, argued before the Arkansas Supreme Court. We have represented clients in all kinds of matters, from real estate to personal injury, criminal law, probate law, just about every kind of case there is except for Social Security.
Okay.
We've represented millionaires. We've represented very poor people over those years.
Okay.
I'm married to a lady by the name of Jill Gartman Mooney.
Okay.
Jill and I have been married for over 34 years.
Oh, wow.
I have two wonderful children. They're adults now.
Is your phone? I'm sorry. Is your volume up on your?
Maybe so.
Just turn the volume.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Okay, there we go.
I've got 2 grandchildren, and so I've been really blessed. And both of them are. One will be 4, I think, in March, and then the other one is brand new. Adeline's was 2 weeks premature, and she's a very healthy baby now, and we're very proud. I've been involved in the community, but from my legal standpoint, I've represented all kinds of clients. I've practiced in front of about every board there is, from the medical board to the real estate board to any licensing board in the state for people that have gotten in trouble with their license. You know, I've tried thousands of custody cases over that time frame. I actually started practicing in 1983, so that kind of gives you an idea of the span of my career.
Okay.
So how would you say all of that experience has prepared you to serve if you are elected as judge?
Well, I mean, I certainly have the experience. As a judge, you have to be able to understand how to treat people when they come before you in the courtroom. A lot of what a judge does, it depends on what division or what subject the case is about, and I can explain that. There's actually 4 divisions in circuit court. There's criminal, there's civil, there's domestic, there's probate, and then juvenile. And all those divisions are a little bit different on how they're handled in court. And some of them you can have jury trials, and others you can't. So, it depends on which division you're in. But I have the experience not only in jury trial work. A lot of what a judge does is actually kind of like an umpire, calls balls and strikes. I don't know if people understand it. I mean, you see these TV shows about the legal world, but they don't.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, well, they don't talk about the rules of evidence and the things that you have to apply in a trial. And that's what a judge does a lot of times, is just rule on what's coming into a trial, what evidence is, and what's not going to come into a trial. So you have to be very in tune with the rules of evidence. You have to be very in tune with the rules of civil procedure, because you're making calls all the time. Now, in other cases, you're actually making decisions that affects families' lives and businesses, such as who's going to have your kid, how long are you going to go to prison, if you're going to prison. So it really depends on the division that you're in. For example, Division 5, which I'm running for, is Circuit Court Division 5. That is Ralph Wilson's position, and Judge Wilson has been on the bench for years, highly regarded judge, was a highly regarded attorney. I knew him before he became a judge. He sat there for probably 30-something years. We're going to be losing a lot of experience. But he, under the administrative plan, which I know y'all have talked a little bit about, that particular division handles a lot of what's called dependency neglect cases. All right, and the dependency neglect case is not like a jury trial. It's more like a family court. All right, and basically what that court is about is that if somebody makes an allegation or complaint about child abuse or neglect, then it's investigated by the Department of Human Services. If a complaint is filed, then it comes before a court. The judge makes a decision on whether it's true or not. And then there is a treatment plan. It's to try to restore the family, not to tear it apart. It's not a criminal proceeding. And that treatment plan lasts anywhere from 12 to 15 months. And the judge oversees that, makes sure there's compliance with that plan. So, and I think in Judge Wilson's division, himself and a couple other judges ran that, and that represented about 34% of the dependency neglect cases filed in our system.
All right, and before we go any further, we've got a lot of Facebook comments, so we want to get some of them knocked out before we get too far in our interview. S.L. Robinson says, good morning, KLEK. Good morning, Mr. Mooney.
Good morning.
And let's see, David Corn says, Skip is a great guy. Happy to know he is my go-to lawyer and hoping he will be the next circuit judge. His passion for Jonesboro is overwhelming, and he definitely has my vote. Vote Skip Mooney Jr. S.L. Robinson says, I don't know him personally, but I remember his brother practicing law in my hometown of Harrisburg. At least I think it was his brother. I was so young at the time, LOL. So if you have a question or comment for Mr. Mooney, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080, or you can leave your questions or your comments on our Facebook Live feed. And if you are watching our Facebook Live video, please share. We definitely want to give as many people an opportunity as possible to hear, not from just Mr. Mooney, but from every candidate that we have, so that you can make an informed decision when you step into the voting box.
Well, I really certainly appreciate the comments. And, truth of the matter is I've been blessed, and we've represented a lot of families and a lot of businesses over the 36 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm just really blessed of all the people that come back and allow us to continue to represent them.
All right. And so I asked this question to all the previous candidates. Because of your experience as a lawyer, an attorney, do you ever feel there'd be a conflict of interest if you were elected as judge for those that you may have represented or gone against in the courtroom?
Well, certainly there would be conflicts of interest. We've represented thousands of people, and but you have to determine what that conflict is. And as a circuit judge, you have to disclose that to the parties and the attorneys of what that conflict is. And normally it's up to them to make a decision on whether or not you want to recuse.
Okay.
Now, if you feel if it's a personal conflict, clearly you have a right to recuse, meaning you have a right to step down from that case and allow another circuit judge to preside over the case.
Okay. All right. And so we've also talked about with other candidates efficiency, and how the courts can get backlogged, their schedule can get overwhelmed. What are some ways that you hope to increase efficiency, just streamline the whole process to your best of your abilities?
Well, this is a topic that I'm a little outspoken on,
okay.
And I'm not so sure everybody's happy about it, but it's the truth. I mean, I've seen a lot of changes in our judicial system over 36 years. As a matter of fact, in 2002, it completely changed. We used to have circuit judges that were chancellors, and they handled probate, domestic, divorces, that type of cases. And then we had circuit judges, even though they're all circuit judges, mm-hmm. and they would handle the jury trials, the criminal matters, the civil matters. And in 2002, that all changed. So the first 19 years of my practice was a totally different kind of system. But after Amendment 80, that entirely changed. And now all the circuit judges are chancellors and circuit judges. So they all hear all the cases. I mean, okay. It's a lot different. And as a practicing attorney, that makes a lot of difference. But anyway, that's the system we have now. The problem that we have is that our system is out of control. We got too many cases. Okay. I'll give you an example. Now, I don't have the statistics for 2019, but in 2018 in the 2nd Judicial District, at the 1st of 2018, we had over 34,000 cases pending. And that's in 6 counties with 11 judges. I mean, all you got to do is the math. We only have 34,000, I think 34,600. Okay? By the end of 2018, we had, I think it was like 37,400, something like that.
So these are unresolved cases?
New cases.
New cases.
So by the end of 2018, our district alone had over 3,000 more cases than we had at the beginning of the year. So if you continue to do that every year, which we have a trend of that, there's just too many cases, so it's almost impossible to manage, and we're trying to do that. The judges are trying to do it. One of the problems has been the explosion of the drug epidemic. I mean, clearly our criminal courts are packed. They're standing room only in Craighead County. Oh. We have, it seems like that we have a policy or some reason, I guess it's just historical, that, we have to try to make everybody a felon, whether it's a drug abuse charge that they're self-medicating on and get caught with drugs, as opposed to somebody that's profiteering off addiction and selling drugs, or the violent people. So there's only so much space. There's only so many judges. There's only so many courtrooms. So the more cases that you have, the less time you're going to have to deal with what I consider the more important cases. And that's the reason I'm a big advocate on specialty courts.
Okay.
And I think all this sort of ties together because I don't know if we've got into your work with Out of the Dark, with you being the founder, but you have sort of experienced addiction from various fronts, from trying to help people with it to defending people with it. You mentioned people who just they get addicted or they're involved with drugs not because they're trying to make money, but they're hurting and they feel that's the only relief that they can get. So how do you think all of that will tie into if you become the judge or not?
Well, if I become a circuit judge, if I'm fortunate enough to do that, the circuit judges actually put together the administrative plan. The administrative plan is the assignment of cases and who's going to take on what cases. At the end of 2020, we're going to lose 2 drug court judges. I'm hoping that I would be able to fill one of those positions. I'm a real believer and advocate on expanding our specialty courts, our veteran courts, our drug courts, and giving nonviolent people an opportunity or a chance to get rehabilitated, not be tagged as a felon the rest of their life or have the government on their back the rest of their life, so they can get out and be productive again, have families, and have the opportunities that a lot of us have. The problem is in 2008, I found out, in early 2007, 2008, that Arkansas led the nation in kids 12 years old and up abusing highly addictive pain medicine. And when I learned that, I was just shocked. I'm talking about number 1 in the country, right here in our hometown, right here in our surroundings. We're dealing with those people that we didn't reach out to.
All right, and I believe we have a phone call. KLK, you on the air? Well, sorry about that. Skip, continue.
That's all right. Well, we're dealing with a lot of those young people that started at 12, 13, 14 years old, experimenting with highly addictive pain medicines that turned into a way for them to deal with their problems and become highly addicted during their adulthood. We're dealing with a lot of those people in our criminal courts, and we're still treating them, instead of trying to divert them into drug courts and funding the drug courts, which is not a judicial responsibility, that's a legislative responsibility. But we have to push those issues, because that's the only way we're going to free up our courts. I mean, right now, if you have standing room only, well, let me put it this way. My dad used to say, I practiced with my dad, I didn't mention that, but my dad practiced here for 57 years. He died in 2017. We practiced together for 34 years. I learned from some really great attorneys and some great judges that aren't here anymore on how the system should run and how you should treat people. My dad used to say, we used to have criminal court here in Craighead County 4 times a year. Now it's every other week. And that's the truth. And it is standing room only. We've got to do something with that part of our system. Free up courtroom space. I have cases that last over a year over there, and they're possession cases. And it's not because we don't have good people working in the system. It's because the system is so bloated and bogged down that we've got to try to come up with different ideas. To answer your question, as a circuit judge, you have an input on what the administrative plan is. You have an input on how our system is going to operate. I can stand outside as Al the Dark or a volunteer and complain and bring out stats all I want to. But if I'm not within that inner circle, I have a hard time making changes, or at least advocating for change.
So you're a firm believer in be the change in which you seek.
A firm believer in what? I'm sorry?
Be the change in which you seek.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to, listen, we're dealing with people's lives. And, instead of being a number of rubber stamping cases as they come through, we really need to look at these people's lives, because they affect their families. As we said earlier, I've represented a lot of people in this area that have kids or young people that have become addicted to drugs. It destroys not only them, it destroys their families, it destroys communities, and I'm about restoring communities. I've got 2 grandkids that are going to grow up hopefully in this community, and I'm tired of seeing or hearing about gunshots every day. It used to not be like that. I think that we've got a very difficult situation here in Jonesboro. They have them in Blytheville. They have them in Osceola. I mean, it's just not our community. Actually, we're better off than a lot of communities. While going out and campaigning and meeting people in other counties, at least we have a lot of recovery here in Jonesboro. A lot of our communities don't have that. We have 4 drug courts in 6 counties. I'm a big advocate. Poinsett County has some of the highest prescription rates in the country. We don't have a drug court over there. So we need to advocate for these things to make our system better, and it will loosen up more time. If we can keep people out of felony criminal court, that frees up a lot of resources for us.
Okay. And I don't know if we have time to answer this question fully, but we see stories of judges all over the world, well, United States. They create programs, just like you said, with the drug court. I watched one video clip where a judge created a program where these juveniles had to come in once a week or however, because they were constantly getting in trouble in school. And so she basically said, okay, you can't act right, you're going to come see me. She sat them down, had a real face-to-face conversation. She was like, okay, either you're going to be in jail or this body bag. And then she had a body bag. And, so she created this program to try to get their attention and kind of shake something loose within them. So as a judge, and I understand you will have a high caseload, or, but will you try to say, okay, what
implement creative ways to try to help people?
Well, one thing is, of course I will. I believe in the future. Through Out of the Dark, we started educating kids on leadership in our school and on drug addiction, and trying to stop the peer pressure associated with it by starting these Out of the Dark school chapters. And I think there's about 17 of them now in Craighead County. I think that the kids are our future. So yes, we got to create something new. Now we do have Finn's courts. We do have a process for exactly what you're talking about. What I'm talking about is expanding the specialty courts. For example, I would be willing, if the court would allow me to do it, is set on more than one drug court. Right now, our drug courts, they're all different. The standards are different. If you go to one county, you may be in it longer. It may be a different kind of program as opposed to the other. I think we should standardize that, and especially from the standpoint of what works and what doesn't work. I'm really big on what's called pre-adjudication.
Okay.
Pre-adjudication is now when you bring somebody in that's a nonviolent, that has addiction issues or mental health issues, they don't have to plead into felony. Okay? There's a difference between pleading to one and being convicted of one.
Okay.
And Skip, we're going to have to get ready to leave. We're getting ready to go up against the break. We do have a question from Lisa Gray. I'm going to go ahead and ask it, but Skip, I want you to answer it on the other side of the break. She says, what about all of the gang violence going on in Jonesboro? No one ever talks about it. Well, Lisa, we will get our answer from Skip on the other side of the break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Is your teen suffering through divorce? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Divorce is never easy on anyone, but teens often channel their emotions into destructive behaviors. A recent survey from Pediatrics Journal shows that teens of divorcing families are twice as likely to use drugs or alcohol. They're also more likely to act out through physical fighting, property damage, and stealing. Others may experience depression and anxiety. But the good news is that parental support can help alleviate some of these risks. Make sure to keep the lines of communication with your teen open. Agree with your spouse to put aside your differences in front of the children and work together to do what's best for them. Remember, your family first.
Want to connect with Mark on Facebook? You can at facebook.com/Mark Merrill. Family tips, great resources, and a sneak peek into his life as a husband, father, and leader. The Family Minute with Mark Merrill.
Made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
Family Minute is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a non-profit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com. KLEKfm.org.
Calling all women and minority business owners as well as the general public. KLEK 102.5 FM presents the Women and Minority Business Showcase at Centennial Hall in the Arkansas State University Student Union. Live broadcast on KLEK and on Facebook. This is your opportunity to show what your business, church, or organization has to offer to the unique, diverse audience of KLEK listeners, supporters, and the Jonesboro community as a whole, or to just check out all the vendors in attendance. Register at KLEKfm.org. Free admission to attend. The KLEK Women and Minority Business Showcase is sponsored by the Arkansas State University Office of Diversity and Community Engagement. This event is a KLEK fundraiser.
The KLEK 2020 Women and Minority Business Showcase, Saturday, February 22nd, from 10 o'clock a.m. until 4 o'clock p.m. Registration and other information is on our website, www.klekfm.org.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com. Meineke of Jonesboro is now Starks Auto Service, a full-service auto repair and vehicle maintenance center, offering engine and transmission repair, brake service, tires, oil changes, and more, performed by ASE certified mechanics. Starks Auto Service, 2813 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, 870-204-7112. Starks Auto Service, Jonesboro.com.
House of Details, located at 3915 East Highland in Jonesboro, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, waxing, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more, with a motto of anything mean we can clean. Details at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and at klekfm.org.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. But when we introduce a new stimulus, Save the Food, we're helping to stop food waste. Save the Food. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
What if I could tell you that a full-blown wildfire was going to occur tomorrow, right where you live? Tell you exactly which neighborhoods it would engulf and how fast it would do it. The first thing you would do is talk with your loved ones and make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a wildfire will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you make a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait, communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency. Who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information. A public service announcement brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Now we're back on Community Conversations with our guest, Skip Mooney, candidate for Circuit Judge, Division 2, Division 5 at large. And before we went to break, we had a question from Lisa R. Gray, who says, what about all the gang violence going on in Jonesboro no one ever talks about? So, Skip, what are your thoughts on it? And if elected, is there anything that you could even do about it?
Well, I mean, I think that it depends on what you're talking about by gang violence. I mean, clearly if it's a violent situation, whether they're juveniles, which can be handled through the juvenile court, or adults in our criminal court, it has to be dealt with. I mean, I don't think anybody, I'm a firm believer that profiteers and people that are violent deserve punishment. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that disputes that, really, or shouldn't dispute that. Gangs have always, it's kind of like the drug addiction in communities. It's not something that you really want to talk about. Communities don't like talking about that. And for a long time, we wouldn't acknowledge that we even had gangs in Jonesboro, even though people knew that. Mm-hmm. And so what can you do as a judge? Truth of the matter is that's more of like a law enforcement issue.
Okay.
It really depends on the severity of what kind of gang activity it is. as to what should be done. It's going to be on a case-by-case basis. I mean, if you got a kid that's involved in a gang, but they're running around with, they haven't done anything violent, but they get in trouble with some other gang members, you should consider that as opposed to the ones that are creating or causing violence.
I would think, especially if that person was like forced into the gang.
Sure. I mean, you know, we've got, the problem is this is cultural, this is generation deep. And I go back and I say a lot of it has to do with the drug addiction issues that we're facing as communities. I've been saying it for years. And actually, I mean, I've been proven right. I mean, now it's a national epidemic. You hear about it all the time, right? But at one time, just like the gang activity, at one time, nobody talked about it. And unless it affected you personally or your family or a friend of yours, a lot of people didn't really want to deal with it or even talk about the issue. So, but these are very important issues in the communities that we have to deal with. As a judge, with regards to gang violence, I think we need to support our law enforcement. I mean, they're the ones out there on the streets risking their lives trying to deal with this. And then, once it gets into the court system, whether it's a gang violence or gang activity or any kind of criminal activity, we can't treat everybody the same. And that's what's happened. We've got so many cases that we're just recycling a lot of these people. Mm-hmm. Somebody comes in, they're charged with a Class D felony for possession or paraphernalia charge. They're put on probation. All of a sudden, probation officers have 100 to 130 people they're trying to supervise a month. It ain't going to happen. We got great probation people. But, I mean, it's just numbers. I mean, you know, you got to get realistic about what's really going on and look at the big picture. And that's what I intend to do as a circuit judge, not only look at the big picture, but try to take every case on the merits of that case. For example, if somebody comes before me in criminal court and they've been charged with paraphernalia needles and they're fixing to be put on probation, I mean, hey, listen, unless they're a diabetic, there's a reason they've got those needles. Mm-hmm. It's because they've got a major addiction. And I want to see the best that I can that person gets treatment and pushes that as part of their conditions of either probation or deferment or pre-adjudication in drug court. So, you know, we're overloaded. Okay. We got really good people in the system trying to deal with this. But when you've got 37,000 cases in 6 counties, and now 11 judges, I mean, it's a matter of math.
Okay.
You know, so we've got to do something about that, and we're going to have to change how we're dealing with some of these issues. Okay. And I think a lot of that is educating deputy prosecutors and prosecutors too.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that actually file the charges, not the judges.
Oh, okay.
You know, the judge doesn't file a charge. I mean, the judge doesn't make a decision on whether somebody that's arrested is going to be formally charged with a felony.
Okay.
That's not the judge's role.
Okay. All right.
But the judge doesn't have to accept every plea that comes before him.
Okay. So you do have some discretion in the final decision.
Sure. You got a lot of discretion. I mean, as a circuit judge, I mean, they come before me in a plea, instead of saying, is there a factual basis for that plea, I'm going to want to know more about it. And then I'll decide whether I'll accept that plea. But we have so many cases coming through, that takes time.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be painful for a while, but I think it's going to be healthy in the long run.
Okay.
It's kind of like losing weight, you know. I mean, nobody wants to do it, and it's painful at times, but you become healthier if you go out and do what's required.
All right.
We got a Facebook shout out from Martha Gartman, who says, we need to elect this man.
Well, that's my mother-in-law, and so I expect her to say that. She's a beautiful person, and she takes care of my grandkids and my kids and our entire family. I'm kind of old school, so I believe in families, and I believe in trying to keep families together.
And speaking of that, one of the, I believe, functions of circuit court is dealing with family law, correct?
Oh, yeah, domestic law. And, golly, I've tried so many. Let me tell you a little story. Let me tell you a couple of stories. So one is that I was out campaigning the other day, and I was over in Piggott. And I ran into this guy, actually kind of looked him up once I heard he was still alive, and I'm not going to say his name or whatever, but 30 years ago I represented him in a custody battle, and it was bitter. I mean, it was a bad custody case. But anyway, he got custody of his son, And I got to visit with him, and I got to see pictures of his grandkids and his kids and where he is now, and it really made me proud to be a lawyer. I mean, it's not all about a game. It's not all about winning and losing all the time, because attorneys, they deal with people's personal situations. When I first started practicing law, I was real gung-ho and pretty egotistical about it. Just honestly. I came from a legal family. My daughter's an attorney. My niece is an attorney. My dad was a prominent attorney. And I walked out of law school just very fortunate. And I had this one case over in Paragould, without mentioning the parties, and I was going against one of the prominent divorce lawyers. And anyway, we were real successful in court. And I walked out there, and my chest was all out, and I just, hey, I'm somebody, I really did something. Well, a couple of days later, I get a call from the other attorney, and his client committed suicide. And he left a suicide note indicating or referring to that hearing that we had. And that changed my entire world. That made things like those real life experiences and dealing with people's lives makes you realize how important your role is. Okay? And it's important as a judge too. We can't have people as numbers or just a figure. We have to, these are lives that we're dealing with. And I understand that as an attorney. I think I can understand that as a judge as well. Okay.
And since you mentioned that, I want to ask another question in reference to that. We've seen cases, of course, the stuff you see on TV, even if it's real life, they don't give you every detail. They give you the nuggets of the case. However, you have someone come to your court, you look at the facts. They're a repeat offender of whatever that issue is. You have to make a determination, and they're in front of you saying, Judge, okay, I'm going to do better, I promise. Just tears.
Hear it all the time.
So in those situations, you still have to make a decision of, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm looking at your record. And so in order to probably save your life or help you become rehabilitated, I'm going to have to send you to jail, to prison, to whatever. I know you have a family, this, that, and have all this over here. However, I'm looking at your record.
Sure. Yeah, well, you have to do that. And clearly there are some people that they just want to have to go to prison or go to jail. We've got to keep the community safe, And some people, addiction is so bad. Mothers leave their children over this issue. I can't imagine that. Having 2 kids and having a great wife that's been a great mother, but that's how powerful this issue is about the addiction issues. So sometimes people just have to be incarcerated. Sometimes they have to be put in long-term treatment. But, really it's no different than anything else. You need to look at somebody's record, like you said. The voters need to look at the people running for circuit court. Look at their records. What have they done? Okay. It's one thing to come out and say, I've handled so many cases. It's another thing to come out and say, hey, listen, I've tried. I've been in the courtroom representing people over thousands of cases. Okay. So you really need to just go back and ask people, do you know that person? Have they really been out trying cases, or have they just been shuffling cases? And so, I think you have to look at the totality of the circumstances and the facts of every case, just like you do in life. Okay. It's any different.
All right. So, again, just kind of stating that we do encourage everyone to get to know the candidates.
Sure.
Here at KLEK, of course, we cannot tell you who to vote for, but we do encourage people to vote and get to know the candidate. Have a conversation with them. Go to some of those public appearances and listen to what you all have to say, so that when you step into the voting booth, you can make an informed decision. Hopefully you vote for someone, or there is a candidate that aligns with your beliefs and values. So that's why we are providing this interview, so that people can get to know you a little bit more. And there will be other appearances before the primary election. So
And to this end, Skip, let people know how they can get in touch with you, your social media, website, and some of the events that you will be at coming up.
Well, I've got a campaign committee, and as a judicial candidate, you're supposed to have a committee. They try to remove us from doing a lot of things, other things that politicians do. For example, and I'll get to answer your question, but I can't ask you for a donation. I mean, that to me, that's because I'm a judicial candidate. I can't even ask you to put a yard sign in your yard for me. So, you know, there's certain restrictions that we have and certain issues we can't talk about. But I've got a campaign committee. I'm on Facebook. You can just look me up, Skip Mooney Jr. on Facebook. Just Google it. We've got a campaign committee Facebook page. I've got a website that they've set up. It's skipmooneyjr.com. And all you have to go, and it has all the information about my history, about what I've done. You know, the other thing about running for office, this is my first time to ever run for office. It's a little awkward to sit around and talk about yourself. When I did the Out of the Dark stuff, I was advocating for kids and other people and families. So it's kind of awkward to get out and say, hey, I've done this, I've done that, whatever. But I think it's real important. When we get out and speak, like at certain clubs and whatever, we get 3 to 5 minutes. You can't educate or tell anybody about yourself. So that's that's the reason why I really appreciate being on this program and what y'all are doing. I spend a lot of time educating people on what a circuit judge even does. And most of the times that I speak publicly, one of the first things I ask is how many people have been in circuit court? Raise your hand. And hardly anybody raises their hand. A lot of people think that circuit judges do the same things as district judges, and that it's just not true. Circuit judges make decisions every day that impact directly families and businesses. It's a very powerful position, and so it's important that people educate themselves on who they're going to elect for that position because it's a 6-year term. I've got a meet and greet at 501 Steakhouse tomorrow night from 5:30 to 7:30. It's an open public thing. I'd like for everybody to come by and visit with me. I've got on next Thursday on the 23rd at Harmony Gardens from 5 to 7. My campaign committee's having another meet and greet. And that's going to be backed by a lot of people in recovery. I've worked with a lot of people, a lot of the professional people, and so hopefully I'm going to have a big crowd then. There'll be some other events, but really my campaign committee puts those things together. So I never know. My wife and other friends and supporters say, hey, we're going to go do this, and as long as it's ethical and within the judicial rules, I'm all about it.
And of course, we encourage you to attend all of those events, and not just Skip's events, but any of the candidates that you see. If they are hosting a meet and greet or a fundraiser, go shake their hand, ask them questions. It's a good opportunity to engage them one-on-one, look them in the eye, and let them know how you feel.
So I want to get into some of your other awards that you've won and how the role you play with those organizations, how it will have an impact on you if you are elected as judge.
I think that just goes to record on credibility. You know, it's one thing to go out and say, you know, I'm a decorated attorney or I'm whatever. It's another thing to be able to just show that's what it is. I mean, you know, I've been really fortunate. The National Grand Lodge of Order of Elks, I won the Distinguished Citizenship Award at one point. I've been honored by the Arkansas Bar Association and the Bar Foundation with the Ranzik Award, which is one of the highest awards you can get in my field and by my peers. I'm very honored with that type of thing. The Medical Society has honored me in the past for my work of being a non-medical, working to make the medical community better. And all of it is really about getting out, trying to make our community safer for our kids, educating our kids, and being involved and giving them a voice. Well, part of Out of the Dark was about getting your kid to come to talk to you and giving them a voice in this whole epidemic. And it works. I mean, that's what we ought to be doing. But I've had a lot of awards. I'm very proud of all of them. I normally don't speak about it. But you know, it's something nobody can ever take away from me. I'm proud of that.
And I know that, you know, you have been very involved in the community. Switching to the role as a judge will put you in a different realm. And how do you feel, will you have to adjust your engagement because if you are elected as judge, will you have to adjust your engagement with the community? Yeah,
to some degree. I mean, that's just part of the job. I mean, you know, you don't want to be influenced. There's a couple of things that I can make promises about if I'm a judge, and One of them is, there's not going to be any politics in my courtroom.
Okay.
I see that. I mean, I've been involved for as many years. I've been in a lot of courts.
Okay.
So, it's not going to be about who you are. It's going to be about what the facts are and what's fair and what's just.
Okay.
Period. The other thing is I believe in all the amendments of the U.S. Constitution and the Arkansas Constitution. And as a circuit judge, it's my responsibility to uphold your rights under those constitutions, whether it's about your freedom or your just whatever rights there are available to you. We get a lot of questions about that, and we can't talk about specifics.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I can really promise to people is that if you elect me as circuit judge and you come before me, I will give you all the respect that you're entitled to. I understand what it's like. I've been there and sat with clients that have had extremely emotional problems, and they may, with whatever that problem is, and it may not be a big deal to others, but I understand how important it is to the clients or the people that come before court. I also understand that attorneys are actually trying to work in front of a court, okay? And it's not really a game. It's about people's lives. And so anybody that comes before me will get all the respect, and I hope fairness, and that's what I intend to do as a judge. That's what I was taught by the older judges and a lot of the judges we have now. We're going to be losing a lot of experience. These races are real important. That's one reason why I'm running, is that we're going to lose 4 judges.
Are they just choosing to retire from the field?
Yeah, from retirement, and almost all of them are close friends. I mean, we're all we're a the legal community is pretty tight. We've got a good legal community in the 2nd Judicial District. I mean, even though attorneys may battle in court, that doesn't mean there aren't friends outside of court, and a lot of it is about respect.
Okay.
And you find out really quick the ones you don't respect and the ones that you do respect based on how they handle themselves and how they represent their clients.
And with that being said, the ones that are leaving, retiring, will you still lean on them for mentorship?
Well,
and
sure.
guidance?
Yeah, and one of my, of course, there are a lot of judges that are friends, and I have a lot of respect for them. I can't really think of them. We've been real fortunate. David Laser he still hears cases, but he retired some time ago.
Okay.
He was our first drug court judge. I hope to handle myself very similar to the way that he has handled his courts.
Okay.
And that is being fair, giving them people opportunity to present their cases, and giving just rulings on what's fair.
Okay.
I was kind of raised what used to be called the do-right rule. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to throw away the rules and the evidence rules and all these to do right.
Okay.
And I think that that's the way you should handle your court. I also think that's the way you should handle your campaign. I've tried to run a very positive campaign, and I was taught that you don't stand on somebody else's shoulders to make yourself look taller. And those type of principles, I've got ingrained in me. That's from my parents and my raising. So my dad reached out and helped thousands of families and people, and a lot of people on Facebook know that.
All right.
I argued in front of the Arkansas Supreme Court once, and after I got through arguing, all the justices got off the bench and came outside and asked me about my dad.
Okay.
So I'm proud of that. I wish he was still here.
I'm sure he's definitely proud of you. And with that, we're going to have to get ready to go into our second break. We are speaking with Skip Mooney Jr., Circuit Judge, District 2, Division 5 at-large candidate. Appreciate everyone who has checked in so far. But don't go anywhere. We're going to take another 5-minute break, and we will be back with more. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Want to get better control of your spending? Stop being bamboozled by the word free. A gift is free, period. A free gift is going to cost you money, i.e. you have to buy something else to get it, or time, space in your home, your attention, an email address. It's going to cost you something, even if the gift is not actually worth anything. The word free stopped being free a long time ago. Now it's just a marketing tool designed to get you to spend money. Basically, the more free something is, the more it's going to cost you to get and or keep it. So before you accept one, be sure you know exactly what it costs, what it's worth, and if you can truly afford it. If there's no real value to a thing beyond possessing it, that's not a gift, it's a burden. Say no thank you and keep it moving. And keep a tight grip on your wallet. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Guide Right Jonesboro Kappa League, a nonprofit organization that guides young men to a life of achievement. Kappa League Jonesboro on Facebook, Jonesboro_Kappa League on Instagram, and JonesboroKappaLeague@gmail.com.
KLEK thanks Charles and Candace Mabry and the staff of Mabry Smokehouse for their support of KLEK and dedication to the Jonesboro community. Mabry's offers Texas-style barbecue, beef brisket, pulled pork, ribs, rib tips, chicken wings, smoked sausage, barbecue fries and nachos, sides, and desserts. Located 1504 Red Wolf Boulevard, Jonesboro. Open 11 to 8 Tuesday through Thursday, Friday and Saturday. More info, Mabry Smokehouse on Facebook.
The Craighead County Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Parade Committee will host the annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Explosion Parade and Celebration January 19th and 20th, 2020. The Youth Explosion will take place Sunday, January 19th, 4 o'clock p.m. at the Jonesboro High School Auditorium. The MLK Parade will begin Monday, January 20th, with participants lining up at 9 o'clock a.m. and the parade starting at 10:30 a.m. at the Arkansas State University Armory. The MLK program will begin at noon at the Arkansas State University Fowler Center. More information is available via Dr. Ray Scales, 870-897-3076, Deidre Jones, 870-819-7301, or Reverend Curtis Wilson, 870-926-5237.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You're bringing your daughter to a pop concert. Do you A, wear earplugs?
Isn't this fun, Dad?
I'll have a soft pretzel.
Or B, just roll with it?
Justin! OMG! I love you, Justin! I love you!
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on adoption, visit adoptuskids.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month. Shout out to Tax Refund Firm, DBA Cool Cuts Taxes, tax preparation and holiday and refund anticipation loans, 1411 Franklin Street, Suite 6, Jonesboro, 870-520-7470, 870-331-8311. Shout out to Harvest Outreach Ministries, Raymond Govan, pastor, 3704 South Caraway Road, number 6, Jonesboro. Sunday worship, 11 a.m., also offering food bank and drug and alcohol counseling. Harvest Outreach Ministries on Facebook.
So, who's going to do what? Flashlights?
Nowhere to be found.
Emergency supply kits?
Not packed.
Great. It sounds like we don't have a plan.
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Visit ready.gov/kids and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
We're back on Community Conversations on KLK 102.5 FM. This is our final segment with Skip Mooney Jr. But don't forget, coming up at the 10 o'clock hour, we have part 2 of our community conversation with the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, so do not go anywhere. So, Skip, in this last segment, is there anything that you want to talk about that we may not have covered? The first segments, any shout-outs, or anything that you just want to get out there to the listeners
Well, sure,
and the viewers?
I appreciate that. Thanks. We've covered a little bit about what the circuit courts are, and we've covered a little bit about my background. What I do want to do is thank all the people and all the people that have stood up and supported me in this campaign, especially my clients. I mean, you know, I'm a private attorney, and every time I come to an event like this to speak, I'm taking time away from my clients, and that's really important to me. But a lot of my clients, or most of them, have been really understanding. I appreciate all the friends that have stood up and actually gone out and campaigned for me, and of course my family. You know, I'm very blessed, and my church family also. I've had a lot of support. I'm a member of the First United Methodist Church, and they helped me initially get the petitions together. I had over 2,500 people sign petitions for me to be on the ballot. I didn't have to pay this huge $6,800 filing fee. Not every candidate can say that. That really made me feel good and made me want to push to continue on with a political race. I'm not a politician. I love meeting the people. It's been fantastic. I've met people all over each county, but I sure don't like politicking. Okay. And in that regard, I actually have just gotten in my yard signs. Okay. And so I cannot ask anybody to put one in their yard, but I can tell you that we have them, and all of the people that have asked for them, all you have to do is contact me on Facebook, or go by my office at 401 South Main and pick one up, or contact Jill, or we have them available, especially for the ones that have asked for it. I appreciate everybody's support. I think that I can make a difference. I tried to make a difference in how we dealt with our schools and educating our kids on what I think is one of the most crucial issues in our community, and that is the collateral damage caused from drug addiction. I think that it's now time to work on our judicial system. There are a lot of changes. We need new ideas. Our system is bloated. It's not because we don't have good judges or good people. It's about numbers. And it's really common sense type stuff. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if a judge averages over 3,500 cases a year, that they're not going to be able to resolve those cases or get those cases complete. I do agree with some of the people that are candidates that talk about scheduling orders in certain cases. There's things that we can do, and Judge Wilson is actually trying to do that. We just recently got a survey sent to all the attorneys about what we think. That's the first time I can recall ever that happening, but they're being proactive about that, and that's good. I'm tired of the community being reactive, and I'm tired of our judicial system being reactive. We've got to be more proactive through our specialty courts. So give me an opportunity. It's a 6-year term. I think I can prove that I'm worth your vote if you give me the opportunity and the blessing to represent the 2nd Judicial District in the Division 5.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Any shout-outs you want to give?
Any what?
Shout-outs.
Shout-outs. Well, listen, thank you to I got to thank my wife, Jill, and my kids, Chase and Jordan, and there are so many people. I mean, people actually have volunteered and shown up. Instead of putting a lot of money in a campaign like a lot of people have to do, I've had a lot of people donating and supporting my campaign. Even though I can't ask you to do that, I can certainly tell you thank you so much for doing it. I've got a lot of friends and clients, and I just can't really name all of them, but I'm truly blessed. Win, lose, or draw, I will feel blessed. I've created a lot of memories going through this campaign. I've been to parades I've never been in. Okay. I've been to fairs I've never been to, and I've met a lot of great people. A lot of great people out there trying to do something right and something good for our community.
Did you come to the district fair like last October, November?
Oh, I was every one of them.
With Dan Sullivan.
Well, listen, I know Dan. I know.
Well, I was there and I met some. I want to say I met you and Mr. Dan.
You may have.
Okay.
Yeah, you may have. Listen, I've been around so long. I've got so many friends around here. I've been truly blessed. And Dan's one of them. John Cooper's one. I know that's a very difficult situation going on right now.
And we'll have both of those candidates on February 6th.
Well, that's
and
good.
7th.
Let's hear from them. See what they've got to say. You know, I'm a voter too. So.
Okay.
All right, Skip, we got to leave it there. Of course, I got to give a disclaimer. KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, we do not endorse, support, nor oppose any candidate for office, nor was any compensation provided for this interview. It was provided for informational purposes only. However, we do encourage you to exercise your right to vote. Early voting starts February 17th. Election day is March 3rd. You will be able to vote at any polling place on Election Day. All right, don't go anywhere. Coming up in about 4 minutes, we will have the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated for part 2 of Community Conversations. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.